One of the things I did put the corner details on the drawings and this ladder detail over here. You want to talk about that, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly. This is what's called a ladder blocking system, and that is at the intersection of an interior wall and an exterior wall. Traditionally, in a more conventionally built house, we would actually just see a T intersection. Right here, we would have a 2x4 that was flat, and then another 2x4 that was turned perpendicular to that. And that's how a traditional intersection is built. This one, again, we used what's called a ladder block, and as you can see, kind of resembles a ladder the way it goes up. Again, we've eliminated an entire 2x4, also created more room to put insulation behind there. So again, instead of there being a 2x4 void of insulation, we're able to install insulation all the way behind that. And that's at every intersection too. Again, when we look at this on a singular basis, when we see one intersection, we think that's not a big deal. If you look up and you see you have 10 of these intersections, that's a pretty large area you're able to insulate.
And why don't you explain thermal break, because some people may not understand that 2x4 that's in the wall is allowing the heat or the cool to transfer in. So explain a little bit about that, why you want to eliminate that.
Sure, of course. Let's think of it this way. We say that we're going to insulate our walls to an R13. That's what code is here in Middle Tennessee. We're going to put an R13 batten here. In this case, we're going with a blown-in cellulose, which is really nice. So all of these pockets are going to be to an R13 cellulose. Every time we come to a stud, every time we come to a 2x4, that's going to have no insulation there. So while we say that our walls are insulated to an R13, if you were to add up all of the surface area of these studs and you look at your effective insulation value, how much insulation are you really getting? You're really only insulating your exterior walls to about an R9. So that's pretty substantial. That's a pretty substantial difference. So we can eliminate as many of these thermal breaks, or just simply areas that have no insulation. The higher our R value, the higher our insulation value as we build our house.
Now, when we first started working on this design, the reason I said it took a while, we actually sat down, all three of us, and we kind of did design cost. It was design build in the process, and I have people sometimes ask me, do you have green plans? Well, any house plan can be a green plan. But what I like to do is look at the area you're building the house, your budget, the type of materials, and you can negotiate design and materials and cost and energy and just work out the best plan for your situation. Now, because we talked about doing 2x6 studs, and we went back and forth with 2x6 studs and 2x4s, and this house is so narrow, it's only, is it 33 feet wide? 23 feet wide. So it's a very narrow house, so that 2 inches on each side was quite a bit. So we did go back, and the numbers were about the same. We really weren't going to save any money by going with 2x6 studs. We would have got more insulation value. However, we're going to do a spray cellulose in the walls, which is really going to tighten it up and everything. Now, one of the things we did do is trusses in the attic. If you look right up here, when you do trusses for your home versus field framing, you want to do an energy heel, and you order your trusses as an energy heel. And what that is they bump this up about 12 inches is what I asked for. You can ask for more, and that allows the insulation to get up really high, even over here to this edge, versus being smushed down if you had that truss sitting right down on that top plate. And they actually have to run their sheathing up, so there's a little bit more sheathing on the outside, so they have to calculate for that. Jeff, you want to say anything about the energy heel? Yeah,
exactly. In Middle Tennessee, it's code that we built to an R38, which is approximately 12 inches of blown-in fiberglass or blown-in cellulose, 14 inches. So if we can, again, like you said, raise that area, we can get all of the insulation to fit in underneath the roof decking. If not, what happens is you have a great thermal area across the entire attic until you get towards the soffits here. And that's where the area would greatly diminish, and you wouldn't be able to get that full 12 inches. You'd probably only get about 3 inches. Also, you would probably have some insulation touching the roof deck, which is not good. You get a lot of heat transfer through that insulation into the living space. So again, this keeps the insulation, allows us to install the full 12 inches, allows plenty of ventilations through the soffits, also keeps that insulation from touching the roof deck.
Okay. And even if you're not doing an earthcraft home, you can do smart framing techniques. That's easy to do, get your information on that kind of thing. Let's step back here. I want to look at some interior walls. We didn't do headers on those walls either.
We did not.
Oh, right here we have one. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Behind Tess here. That's a door opening into a bedroom, and as you can see, there's no header. A lot of times they build headers into that.
A lot of times it's quite honestly just easier sometimes just to put a header in there rather than to kind of think through some of your framing members. But the Earthcraft program asks you again any non-load-bearing walls to please not install structural header to think through and see if you can eliminate some of the wood. And that's what they've done here. Did a really wonderful job, as you can see.
And we spanned all the way across with the trusses, so there was no need for any interior load-bearing walls. And we also used a little larger pre-engineered floor joist, so we could eliminate the girders in the center of the house, so we don't have that either. So, Curtis, anything else you want to add?
Well, also we've got this LP Tech Shield.
Yes.
It's a radiant barrier, and the important part about this is that it's in an attic space where it's not going to be touching any insulation. It's like Jeff said, if it touches insulation, then that draws the heat through, so that's not going to work. So, you know, our insulation is going to be here on the bottom part of these trusses, and then you're going to have a space of air, and then you have the LP Tech Shield. And it's an amazing radiant barrier. It really does make a difference in your house, and I think it's well worth the price.
You've been in attics where it's really hot outside, and you go in and it's a lot different on the inside.
It is. We had a house that we did. It was a 5,000 square foot house we did in White House, and it was I don't know, 100 degrees outside. I believe it was a really hot summer, and we had the radiant barrier on. It was framed up like this. We didn't have any windows, any doors, no insulation, just the radiant barrier. And it had an upstairs, of course, and an attic up there. And you could go up in the attic, and it was no hotter than if you were down on the first floor. And it was, I don't even know how many degrees cooler inside the house than it was on the outside. It was amazing. It was just the radiant barrier.
And we want to thank LP Products, because LP donated the Tech Shield. And we'll give you a link to that product. And the subflooring, right?
Oh, this flooring, right? Yeah, the subflooring right here.
LP also donated the subflooring for this nonprofit, and we will give you the web link for that. And they also gave us some other things at cost. So they really helped out with this. Tommy Duloich, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Anyway, is there anything else we want to talk about at this point with the framing part of it?
I think one area that we'll cover that Curtis has mentioned is we did ask our framers to do a central cut area, meaning that they cut all of their wood in one central location. And we know that we do this because we see a cut pile at back. But then again, if we walk back and look at the dumpster, you can see how little waste there is on this project. So when we ask our framers to have a central cut pile, what we're doing is encouraging them to use scrap pieces of wood in instances where they might need a small piece of wood for a blocking member, such as this right here, rather than cutting a virgin piece of 2x4. So we are asking to do that. So it's a tremendous amount of waste reduction, again, as evidenced by the dumpster.
We had about 100 2x4s that we're taking back.
Yeah, I was actually surprised about how little waste was on the job site. It was just, for me, it was totally different than going to another job site where I've been to houses where it's just all over the site. They're cutting wood everywhere.
Exactly.
And the dumpster's only less than a quarter full. I mean, it's just not even a quarter full or whatever. And we've already up
It's
to
a whole house. I mean, as far as the whole frame.
Right. So anyway, okay. Well, I'm Lynn Taylor, Taylor Made Plans here in Nashville, Tennessee. And this is Jeff Middlebrook with E3 Innovate and Curtis Borntrager Homes, and we'll have all their contact information on their web for you, and check back with us for some more information.